It's a glorious Thursday night in May. But before we get into any draft stuff, before we get into any schedule talk, there's a tweet from one KD Trey 5. I think you know who that is.
I do.
Hot take artists have ruined the sport. Football guys, no disrespect, but y'all boys need to stay in your lanes. You don't know what it's like in between the lines. Give it a break. Dudes who quit football early to pursue media, talking mental toughness, cut it out, which Kendrick Perkins, of all people, agreed with. But here's where it gets interesting. So Emmanuel Acho decides to go. It's not a hot take to suggest that JB plays a tougher brand of ball than JT. You're right. I don't know what it's like between the lines, and you don't know what it's like to take on Adrian Peterson in the open field. That doesn't nullify your ability to speak on toughness. To which some random person named Sloth on Ball goes, Acho, you played against AP once in your career and y'all lost while giving up 48 points and you didn't record a single statistic on your 17 snaps. Are you sure you know what it's like to take on Peterson in the open field?
That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I think that's the true definition of getting cooked, no?
Absolutely. It's personally, I hate the whole like, oh, you have to play to like have a take on it. I think that's dumb. That's just a dumb line of thinking in the first place. But in this instance, it's Emmanuel Acho, and like that guy's the worst. So like seeing him get cooked, we're with it.
Exactly. But the one thing I'm not with though, is look, we know the schedule came out, but we all know what the week 1 Sunday night football game is, and I'm not ready for the discourse between those two fan bases. I'm just going to watch from the sides because Ravens fans, Bills fans, there's going to be so much just flying around with those two. It's just
and that's a great week 1 matchup too. That is we are eating. I know like you kind of want to save that for like, towards the end of the season where like it really matters, but like it's also good to just like kick off the year with like a banger.
There's 2 of those. There's that one, and then the Monday night game they got right with Chicago and Minnesota as well.
Yeah, if Chicago, takes that next step, I think that could be a great game. But I think it's a good game where it is right now because both teams are in a weird like transitional space, right? Where we're trying to see if the Bears are who we think they can be. They upgraded their offensive line over the offseason. They went out and added more weapons. They, drafted Luther Burden in the second round. Like, they really like bolstered their offense. Now let's see if Caleb Williams takes that next step and takes them to where they need to go. And then the Vikings, obviously a great team last year. That defense still looks like it should be legit. Offensively, though, you have JJ McCarthy, obviously first rounder, the year prior, but he's coming off of an ACL tear. So how does that look, and how long does it take before they start gelling? I think it's a good matchup because neither team is in their final form yet. And I can't wait to see that.
And one thing I'm not excited for this, but I am. But week 2 and week 7, we have the return of the 7 o'clock and the 10 o'clock Monday night football games. So if you're a true sicko, you can stay up to watch Houston play Seattle or Vegas and LA, which that's like more like, hey, I'll watch like the first half and then I'll probably knock out.
Yeah, it's probably bedtime.
But no, they honestly really spaced out the schedule well. But the one thing with the schedule, and I don't even want to say, because I know there's the whole wording of Chiefs fatigue.
Yeah.
But someone it was Mike Florio put it, and Chris Sims put it in a great way, where it's not so much fatigue or like, oh, they're shoving down throats. It's more, hey, you're the teacher's pet. And when you're the teacher's pet, you kind of get preferential treatment. Because like,
for sure,
I've never seen that. Like even the Patriots, like when we were at our height, we never got it to like this extent. But hey, when you got something good, like don't waste it. The fact too, if you got drafted by those teams, I'm sorry. Celebrate Christmas on the 23rd. Celebrate Thanksgiving on Black Friday.
But that that's the perk of of being on a winning team in a winning organization. But at the same time, like, and I know people love primetime games. They're like, oh, we got to see how many primetime games we got. But like, I don't know. As an elder millennial at this point, you just gotta really love the 4 p.m. games, especially if you're a fan of a team that wins a lot. Like if you're a fan of the Chiefs, you're going to get maxed out like 6. I didn't check how many they had, but off the top of my head, it's probably like 5 or 6 primetime games, like true like nighttime. We're in a solo window kind of games. But when the Patriots were getting that many games, we're getting 5 a year. I always looked forward more towards the 4 o'clock games because I just like didn't take up my whole night. So Chiefs fans, I feel for you, but if you weren't so successful, then you wouldn't be here. So it's a double-edged sword.
So they have, excluding Thanksgiving, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 games in the 425 window.
Oh yeah,
That's
the sweet spot.
But here's the thing, though: they have 1, they have 2, they have 3, they have 4, they have 5, they have 6, they have 7 games at 8:15 or 8:20.
Disgusting.
That includes the free YouTube streamed game between the Chargers week 1. But no, like their schedule, like their first 1 o'clock game of the year is week 7 against the Raiders.
Holy smokes!
And then
that is so late for like their first 1 o'clock game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, with the Patriots, we have 4 right off the hop. Look, you and I spoke about it briefly through text, but I'll say this: the way our schedule got balanced out, I don't have a problem with it. Like you say, I would have liked more 425 spots, but hey, I'll take what I can get for now. And the fact they have more primetime games this year than the Jets. The Jets only got 1 primetime game, which is ironically against the Patriots.
Yep, the Thursday night game.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Week 5, when we're here to meet the Patriots offense and it goes Drake, May, UNC. Oh, I don't know what it's going to hit like yet, but it's going to be sweet.
Yeah. I think the best show on TV is Sunday Night Football. Mm-hmm. The production value is through the roof. So I love the player intros. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, but the other part with the schedule too, so the only conduit, and I found this weird, but week 2 and week 18, the Patriots go to Miami, and then Miami comes here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize this today, but that same week, the Bills and the Jets play. Both play week 2 and week 18. So that's kind of a weird.
That's a funny little quirk there.
Yeah. that's the only thing with the schedule I wish we would have had is the fact that we go to Miami week 2. That's the only.
Yeah, that early Miami game is so brutal. But it's kind of nice to just get it out of the way. When Tom Brady was still here and the Patriots were going down there and just like losing random games down there, it never felt terrible because you're always like, all right, Patriots always kind of start slow anyways. The first month is gonna. What happened?
The one 2018. That's the only game that felt terrible.
Which year was that? Was Miami. That the Miami Miracle game?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, outside of that, but that was later in the season. But the early ones, like when you go in early, the season's still young. The Patriots were usually a slow starting team under Bill Belichick. Like they won their games, but they never really looked like the Patriots. And I kind of just assume it's going to be more of the same. Like it's going to take them a little while. New coaching staff, essentially a brand new offense, both in terms of personnel and in terms of scheme. There's going to be an adjustment period, so I'd rather get that horrible, no good, very awful loss out of the way early with the Dolphins, like because we're going to go down there, they're going to lay an egg, and so we're like, all right, like whatever, and then from there, just hit their stride.
The one thing I am looking forward to though is in week 1 when Robert Spillane gives Ashton Genty his "Welcome to the NFL" moment, kid. Where it's just.
I certainly hope that is the case. I certainly hope that is what happens. My fear is that he can get a welcome to the NFL moment in a different way, where he's, puts 14 in the blender. I can see that happening. I know Robert Spillane's an excellent tackler. I just think Ashton Genty's he's such a special mover that I can't see him getting embarrassed. And I can totally see it the other way around because that's the kind of guy he is.
That's the kind of game too that I like week 1 just because it's so unpredictable to where it can go either way. Yeah. Like a game for week 1, I would hate to be as a Titans fan because the Titans get that vaunted Broncos defense right off the hop with their rookie QB and Cam Ward.
That's tough. That is tough. They definitely got hosed. When I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Like Cam Ward's just gonna have to figure out. All right, we're gonna have to throw at Patrick Surtain and Jaquan McMillan, and Riley Moss is still over there, and you're like, all right, well. That's tough. And then, that's not even accounting for their front 7 or really their front 4. I mean, they can pressure. And that's just asking a lot of Cam Ward. But I think it is, it is a good test. If he doesn't look overwhelmed, right? Because he can play mediocre or play poorly and not look overwhelmed. It could just be like, oh, this team's just not very good. I mean, they did pick 1 overall just this past year. So we can't expect them to be great out of the chutes. But if he doesn't look overwhelmed, I think that will be a good sign. I know people like to kind of overreact to like the first exposure we get to these rookie quarterbacks, and everyone's kind of like, oh man, like, is he really going to be that good? You think back to CJ Stroud's rookie year, he played the Patriots in the preseason opener, and he got baited into a bad throw by Jalen Mills, who intercepted it, and everyone on the timeline was kind of like, all right, I know it's still preseason, but wow, that is a really rough decision. And I'm just like, it's a learning moment. Like, these things are going to happen. It's going to happen early. You'd rather get it out of the way early. So as long as Cam Ward doesn't look overwhelmed, I think they're in good hands.
Two other games I like early is the Steelers and the Panthers, just because the two teams that are still probably going to be figuring it out at that point as well.
Yep.
And then the Steelers as well. That's the week before they go to Europe. So I'm not saying that's like a game they're going to walk past, but it's like a game where it's like, hey, you have to play this game, and then you have to worry about going to the other side of the world to go play in Ireland the following week.
Yeah.
And then the Panthers, team still figuring it out. Watching Tech go up against Gonzo is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot. And then, but like I said, too, that week 5, I know like Sunday Night Football, there's the week 3 Chiefs Giants game, which like if you're a Giants fan right now, Jesus Christ, you got killed with whoever made your schedule. Like,
they're it's really interesting though, because I really don't know what the Giants are going to be, but the NFL seems to think they're going to be like at least competent, because they have a number of primetime games that were surprising to me. Obviously they get the Chiefs in primetime, and I really don't know what's up with that, like what storyline they were cooking where they were like, yeah, we got to have the Giants in primetime Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. That seems a little off to me. Maybe it's just something I'm overlooking in the moment. And then they also play the Patriots in prime time prior to the bye week. What's that, December 1st? So I'm really curious about that. That's one that I when I saw that, I was like, that is a bold decision, simply because both teams could be terrible, right? Like, I'm expecting the Patriots to win about 9-10 games, but like they could easily win like 6 or 7 and it not look crazy. But to that point, you're a week prior to the bye week. You've played at that point. It'll be 13 games. Like, and that could be kind of an ugly game. And putting that in prime time is such an interesting decision. But I rock with it.
I mean, and Malik Neighbors in jail, but besides that, it's going to be a fun game to watch. But their schedule, though, it's at Commanders, at Cowboys, first Chiefs, first Chargers, at the Saints. But then here's where they get put in hell: versus Eagles, at Broncos, at Eagles.
Yeah, that 2 and 3 that we'd messaged about. The Patriots didn't get hit with any of those. Thank the Lord. But playing the division rival in a sandwich, always terrible. And for that division rival to also be the Super Bowl champions, that is hellacious.
Philly also got that with Washington week 16 and week 18 as well, which is very interesting. Where it's
that's a real bummer for me personally, because I think both of those games are going to be very, very good, like very entertaining games. So it kind of sucks to have them clustered. We're going to spread it out a little more. Like, we got a little taste in October, and then we got the piece de resistance in January. That would be sick, but the whole the NFL is obsessed with this little sandwich they got going.
Yeah, and then like with the Patriots too, the only stretch here that's a little iffy is that after the bye, at versus Bills, at Ravens. Besides that, though, like I feel like their schedule is very like just going back to the Patriots, very evened out. Even where October, sure you get the Bills, but then after that you get the Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons, which are 3 of the 4 I would say are winnable. And I'm not here to say they're going to win 3 of the 4, but they're on paper games that you know what, hey, you expect them to win, considering that's the sandwich of schedule I have to call. None of us got a primetime game, and you have to play us at 1:00, except for the Saints, which is a 4:25 kick.
Yeah. That's a favorable portion of the schedule as well. I think the Patriots could very well, leave that stretch 4-0. I think the toughest team there is probably the Falcons. I think the Falcons are kind of being slept on. I think Michael Penix is a good player. People are kind of like writing that off as like, they should win that easily. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, if they can just find a pass rush, I mean, I know they've been looking since, the days of yore, but like they really need a pass rush. If they can, get their rookie, first rounders and Pierce and blanking on the other one, but if they can get those guys going, I think that game could be a tough game for the Patriots. But generally speaking, I agree. I think that's like a favorable chunk of the schedule. Even that Bills game that's like right before it, that primetime game, I don't think that's going to be some kind of like bloodbath, and they're going to walk away feeling like, oh yeah, we went in, because the Patriots played the Bills well last year with basically no coaching. So I'm looking forward to seeing what year 2 may, and a better offensive attack plan of attack, and better players. Just being realistic, better players. I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I am too. Also with Atlanta, I'm with you on that boat. I think Atlanta is going to be good this year. With the Giants, I'll say this: I think they're going to win a couple games no one sees them winning, and I have them right now at like 6-11. If I had to put a record label on them at the moment, just hey, steal a couple ones, do this here and there. But with New England, look, that 3-game stretch right there is a real make or break for them, because it's like, hey, you hang with them. I love the week 5 spot for the primetime game instead of it was like the week 15 game, because week 5 is that real, hey, Buffalo's got some games out of the gate where they're going to be tested. Same with New England. But then you have this game week 5 where it's like, okay, you guys are going into Buffalo. What are you guys truly made of? Show us. This is a real game to show the rest of the NFL world, because like last year, look, Bills fans, they were like, we haven't seen any of you guys. We don't know what's really going on. And I kind of had to catch some of them up on it, to where now this is a game where they can go right away. Hey, what are the 2025 Patriots? What's their story for the rest of the season? Because that's a game where if they go in there, they lose by 3, kind of like what they did in December last year, it's viewed as a great thing. But if they go in there and they get killed like they did in that playoff game the last time these two teams played in primetime, everyone's going to go, oh, you know what? The Patriots are still mediocre. They're still like the quote unquote, they're not back yet.
Yeah, definitely. I really think that December game against the Bills, the Patriots got out to that 14-point lead.
Yep.
I think that really kind of cemented in a lot of people's minds, because that was a 4 p.m. kick, so more eyes were on it. And
that got flexed to 4 o'clock too.
Yeah, and people kind of looked like, oh, wait a minute, like the Patriots are bad. Yes, they are bad, but you kind of saw the pieces coming together. You're like, okay, like with a little better coaching and better personnel, maybe we do a little something. So I love that our first primetime game of the year is against the Bills again. And you want to see if, like you said, if they can keep it close, or if they can, make it a ball game. And I have no doubt that the Patriots can do that. I think that's going to be a lot closer. I know there are people who are like super, super, super high on the Patriots. They're like, yes, this is a playoff team right now. I'm not willing to go there quite yet, but I think it's a team that they're going to be a lot friskier than a lot of people are kind of expecting. And I think this first game is going to be, this first game against the Bills is going to be a lot of people's, introduction to that idea of like, oh, wait a minute, like Patriots might kind of got something.
It's kind of like the Bucs primetime game, Brady's return in 2021.
Yes.
Sense.
Yep. Love that. Where, the Mac Jones Patriots went out there and,
Hunter Henry had a nice touchdown in that game.
Yeah. Save for, there was a fumble. The Patriots had a fumble early that kind of shifted it a little bit. And then obviously they missed the field goal at the end there.
Yep.
It was a long field goal, so obviously tough. But that was the first game where people were like, okay, wait a minute, like these Mac Jones Patriots can kind of hang, right? Like it didn't look crazy. And I think this first Bills game is a perfect opportunity to kind of replicate that, where, even in a loss, play like we think you can play. And, people are gonna feel a lot better about the Patriots. And then for us to go from that, if you come off of a close loss or even an outright win against the Bills, going into that 4-game stretch against, Tennessee, Cleveland, Atlanta, and who am I forgetting? Tampa.
New Orleans, and then Tampa.
And New Orleans is there. Well, you come out of that 5-game stretch there, 3-2. You feel pretty good regardless of what happened the week prior against the Bills.
So you know what? Since we're here, let's rip off the Band-Aid right now. Let's go through all 17, just because we're here for fun. Before next year we're doing this and it's 18. Raiders. I'm going to say the Raiders game's a win, just because that'll be a close, ugly game, and they'll find a way.
I think that's a sneaky tough game. I really do. I think
like a 21-17.
I've seen a lot of people kind of like, oh yeah, the Raiders, that's a nice easy win to start the year, and I'm like, I don't know, y'all gotta pay a little more attention to the Raiders. I think
it's like the Seahawks game last year.
Exactly. And funny enough, both of them feature Geno, and I think that's the reason a lot of people are like, oh yes, easy win, they don't have a quarterback. And I'm like, Geno's a lot better than a lot of people seem to think. Like, people who just don't pay attention to that side of the country just don't really realize how good a player Geno is. So like, you stick them in there in that Raiders offense, and they're going to have much more competent coaching, the best coaching they've had legitimately in since the last year of Gruden, or the second to last year of Gruden. Like, they're going to have better coaching. That's going to be a frisky team. I think that's going to be a tough game. I also think it's going to be a win, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher than the people are kind of expecting, especially because offenses aside, like, the Patriots still have to play against that defensive front. And I think people just aren't giving Max Crosby enough credit. I know that the Patriots O-line is expected to be improved. But if they're kind of slow getting it going, right? If they just, and we've seen that happen across the league, right? You put so many new players in place, right? You're going to have a new center, a new left tackle, a new right tackle, and possibly a new left guard. It's going to take a little bit of time for those guys to get going, especially if they miss any time in the preseason whatsoever, right? Because week one's a little funny like that, where everyone just kind of assumes like, oh, it's the first game of the year, everyone's going to be healthy. But if any of those guys are kind of out of place, like if Morgan Moses, if he's not ready to go out of the chute, like I say, because I only choose him because he's a bit of an older player, but if he's like slow coming out, or he gets nicked up a little bit and has to miss that game, you're looking at Trey Jacobs in that spot, or maybe Vadarian Lowe, depending on how his camp goes. But that's the guy that you're like, hey, you're going to see Max Crosby every snap go win, and that's a tough ask. So I know that this is all a long-winded way of me saying, like, we have to kind of see what that O-line is going to look like. Again, on paper, it feels much better, so you're not quite as worried. But if they're slow getting out of the gates, if they haven't gelled all the way, if anyone misses time and throughout the summer, it could look ugly on that front, because Max Crosby is still an incredible pass rusher. They also have Tyree Wilson, who I think is a better player than a lot of people kind of give him credit for. And I know he was, obviously injuries played a big part in that, but he was a top 10 pick for a reason. We kind of got to account for that. They have Christian Wilkins in the middle. I think that's a good front. I think their cornerbacks can be taken advantage of, though. I think that secondary is kind of food. So, like, I see it in that regard, but I wouldn't just pencil it in as like, oh yeah, Patriots 44-19, let's go. I don't really see that happening.
No, I have 21-17. This can be a kind of game that can catch people by surprise. Like, I don't know if you remember these ones too, but the Houston Texan game in 2017, the
Brandon Cooks,
I
remember that one.
One of my favorite non-playoff Brady touchdowns ever, where Brandon Cooks just 2 feet, boom, and then some random guy like pats him on the shoulder, and I think security's just like, hey, don't touch him. That one, and then there was also a game against the Raiders. I think it was Carr's rookie year. 20.
Was that so that would have been 2014 his rookie year. Was that the really ugly game where Vince Wilfork ended the game on the interception?
Yes.
that was a terrible game.
Like, I can see something like that. Like, I mean, like, the worst week 1 game is going to be Steelers and Jets. That's just going to be bleh. Like, if you're a fan of either team, I'm not sorry for you. But yeah, like, this is going to be low scoring. Like I said, like the game against Seattle last year, where I think Geno can have a couple plays where he can exploit the defense a bit. But I feel like, too, it's kind of that game where both teams are figuring it out. But I do trust New England and their coaching to pull that one out. But the one thing I want to say with Vegas, too, is I feel like they can be good. They're just in a bad situation because they have two really good teams ahead of them, and then you obviously have the juggernaut Chiefs. So
yeah, they play in a tough division, and that's gonna that's really hard to kind of overcome, right? You have the Chiefs in that division, the Chargers in that division, and you also have Denver in that division.
Yep.
I think the Raiders are clear cut fourth, so I don't expect them to make noise long term as far as playoffs go, but I think they're a team that, like, and it's so cliche, but like, they're a team that you're not going to just want to play. Like, it's not an easy out. I think they're going to be that kind of team, and that's kind of how Pete Carroll's teams have been his entire time in the league. It's like, it may not be good, but like, you're going to have to earn this. You're not going to just like walk in and win.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it for them. Like, they're never going to be bad, but they're never going to be that like best in the world. They're going to be like that middle of the pack. Like, his later years in Seattle too, even they were 8, 9, 10 wins constantly, but I always saw them, they'd start off slow, but then they'd hit their stride later in the year, to where next year everyone was like, around this time, everyone's like, oh, Seattle, they're creeping right there, which I do believe that this year with Mike McDonald, but that's another story. And then week 2, obviously, Miami. That's a chalk loss, because it's like, expect the expected with that. There's nothing else really to say. Just,
it's a loss until they prove me wrong. Like, that's until they
Yes.
can go down there and win a game in September, I'm just going to chalk it up as a loss.
Yeah, that's just it. Week 3 against Pittsburgh. This is a coin flip game to me, but I still feel like they can pull out the win because the same thing too, where depending on who's quarterback for the Steelers, but then also too, Steelers are that team that look, they either start hot or they just wait a bit. And I still feel like the Steelers are going to be like 2-6, and then they're going to go like 7-1 down the stretch and sneak into the playoffs. They're going to do that classic BS. But I'll say win, but I'll say this is another like 2022 game where the same thing. Patriots had to you have to earn the win. There's not like an easy win.
Yeah, I think that game is I can see that easily being a loss. I think that their defense is so insane.
Yeah.
They just kind of have a guy at every position, and teams that have a guy at every position defensively typically win a lot more games. And again, it's early in the season. Patriots are going to be, kind of working through the kinks of installing a new system, kind of figuring out what their best personnel grouping is. And again, it kind of comes back to the O-line. If it's healthy, you feel all right with it. But if there's anyone missing, you're like, all right, well, we have to now contend with, Cam Hayward. We have TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith on the other side. Like that. Yeah. It's just like, I don't feel super great about that. Like, and then in their secondary, I think their secondary is legit. They added Darius Slay. I think he can still play. They have Joey Porter Jr. there. Minka Fitzpatrick, but I was thinking of Bainey Bishop. They're 5'9". I think he played a little bit of safety last year, but he's really a slot corner. He's a phenomenal player. He's a little small, but I think he's a phenomenal player. I think it's kind of a tough matchup. That game I'm super interested in. I'm like, I want to see how that one plays out.
That's one where I feel like that could be a moment for Drake where it really is, hey, how do you do against a really good defense? Because if you think about all these defenses, and not to discredit what the Raiders defense is, but the Steelers have a more complete defense.
Yes.
And then Miami, we're still trying to figure out what they are because they really lost a lot of pieces defensively this year as well. Javon Holland, Christian Wilkins gone in 2 seasons now, etc. Plus two, we'll talk about this later, but the return of number 90 can really exploit that matchup with a weaker Miami offensive line as well. But we'll see how that one goes. The game against Carolina, low key can be exciting.
I think it will be. I think the Panthers are so interesting because
last they're not year, there yet, but it's like
once Bryce got back from his benching, they were legitimately in every game they played. They were just
they nearly beat the Eagles.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And they should have won that game.
They almost beat the Chiefs too.
Xavier Legette dropped that football, but I think that team can be so exciting. I think their running game. I know that, Jonathan Brooks just ended up on IR, but he didn't really play that much for them last year.
He
anyway,
tore his ACL again. He tore it. And he tore it again.
It just hasn't. It just hasn't looked right for him yet. And so a year off is probably going to do him some good. But yeah, Chuba Hubbard, who I think is a legitimate Rico Dowdle's now there as well. So they have a nice little 1-2 punch. And then at their skill positions, they have obviously Ted McMillan, top. What pick was he? I think he was
9th.
All right, the 9th pick in the draft. Phenomenal player. We've spent a lot of time on him this offseason. So obviously we're familiar with his game. Xavier Legette, I think, is a legitimate player as well. I just, he just needs to be a little more consistent, and we'll see that with, going from rookie to, second year player. We'll see that jump there. So I kind of like what they got going on there. They have Jalen Coker there, who's probably going to be a rotational slot for them alongside Adam Thielen. I think he's a very good player, undrafted out of Holy Cross last year. He really, really ran some really good routes late last year. I think their offensive line has really come together. I don't know. I kind of like the Panthers, and then defensively, J.C. Horn, Derek Brown still over there. It's a good team. I think that could be that could be a fun matchup.
Derek Brown's one of the more underrated defensive tackles.
Isn't he?
Yeah. You muted yourself. He's on mute. He muted. McGarvin muted himself.
Wait a minute.
There we go.
So back. Yeah.
So excited for Derek Brown talk.
Derek Brown is so interesting because for a while there, after his rookie season, there were people who were like, "Oh, this is the guy that we spent we spent the
top 10 pick."
I'm trying to remember if he was 8th or 7th, but he was
6. I think it was 6.
Well, he was a top 10 pick.
Yeah,
right.
In the COVID draft, he was a COVID draft pick.
Right, and he only had 2 sacks, and he's not a real big sack sack number guy. I think he only has, I think, 8 or 9. But he is a pressure player, right? He's not finishing those plays, but he is a pressure player. He's disruptive against the run, and he can knife into the backfield. And he's like I said, he's not gonna finish off. Again, the sack numbers speak for themselves. He's not gonna take the quarterback to the ground often, but he will force the quarterback off his spot, and that is what he does really well. And I know that people, you spend a top, a top 10 pick on a defensive lineman, you kind of hope he's a big producer as far as, sacks go, and that's not his game, but he is an impactful player. I think that team is, I don't know. I think that could be that game could go either way, and I'd be fine either way because I think it's going to be a fun game.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And also to add on to as well, they have like you started saying, J.C. Horn, A'Shawn Robinson's another one. He's not the best player, but he's sneaky, he's involved in some of their plays.
Yeah, he does what he does well as far as defending the run.
They just have Ike Ekwonu, who's really not worked out. I know he was the right pick at the time, but he really is not developed in what I think people thought he was going to be.
I think he's serviceable though. I think you could do a lot worse at left tackle than Ike Ekwonu. And they picked up his option, at least indicating that they like enough what they've seen out of him to kind of keep him around. And I think that's the right decision because, again, I know we want these guys to kind of be like, especially first round picks, you kind of want them to be like impact players from the get-go. But sometimes you spend a pick on a guy who you want to be like a cornerstone player, and instead he's just good. And that's fine. That's fine. Like, if we had a Nicky Ekwonu on our roster last year, as far as the Patriots go, I'd be totally fine with that. So not worried about it. I think their O-line's going to be real good.
I'm not here to say he was bad. It's just I feel like him and Evan Neal haven't lived up to that moniker of like what people thought they were going to be coming up.
Okay, now Evan Neal is terrible.
Yes,
he is terrible. He is terrible. Yeah,
but and the time they were the right picks. They weren't bad draft picks. It's just
I agree.
They're not these all-world offensive linemen to what they were hyped to be.
That it is so disappointing that because again, built by Bama, so there's the Bama bias right there. But I kind of expected him to be better than he was. I know they're moving him to guard this year, and it's not a matter of like, oh, we think he's going to be a really good guard. It's more like, hey, we don't think he's going to be a good tackle, and we spent a first round pick on him, so like, we kind of got to play him somewhere, and we'll see how it goes from there. What a disappointing turn for his career. But as far as like rookies go, I think the Panthers had a really nice draft class.
Trevor Etienne as well.
Yes. And so like you feel really good about that. They have Princely. What is his last name? Princely. What's his name? He was he's a pass rusher. Princely from Mississippi.
I just had
Uman. I can't print. Oh,
I just had their depth chart up. I'm gonna pull it back up again.
Go for it. But yeah, they I think they have a nice crop of rookies that I'm really excited to kind of see more out of. Obviously, we talked about.
I got it. Princely Uman Milan. I totally butchered that, but he's their third.
Absolutely.
He's their third right now, behind DJ Wannum and then Pat Jones the second. DJ
Wannum's a good player too. Again, I kind of like what they got going on. They have Jatavian Sanders, who they drafted a couple years ago. Their tight end. I think he can also be a factor there. Tommy Tremble's still over there as well. That's going to be a fun game. I know we just spent a lot of time on the Panthers. My bad, but like that's a team that I'm kind of like low-key kind of excited about. Like out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh, can they play? Like let's kind of see something out of them. I've
also been like a bit of a Dave Canales guy where I see like, because for some reason, whenever they won games, their like post-game locker room videos have come up, and the way he can command the room, it's not because Dan Campbell's one of a kind, but he has that same level of command where, you could tell the guys want to play for him.
Yeah.
And when even when the team's not good, I think they were 5-12. I think they're 5-12 last year. Look, the fact like you're saying, they're in a lot of games. They're a team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, but they're definitely going to catch people off guard. Where it's like, holy crap, we should have been talking about them more in the off season. But yeah, so like I said, going into that Bills game, I think if they're 2-2 or 3-1's would be amazing. Yeah. I think 2-2 is more realistic. So if they're 2-2 going into week 5, I'm more than okay with it, considering they haven't been there since 2020. The last 4 seasons has been 1-3 constantly.
Yeah.
So you can take what you can get, and then hey, if you come out of that Bills game at 2-3, I don't think any Patriot fans gonna be mad.
No, I think that's a good record. I think It's gonna be a little fucked up. But my take with the Bills is I'm a little sad because they got rid of Kyer Elam.
Yeah.
And he was like the Patriots' best player last year. Like when they saw 5, they were like, "Yeah, buddy." Like that's
the Chiefs did the same thing in the championship game, brother.
Exactly. There's like, "Hey, just find 5 and just like throw the football at him because he's not gonna contest it." So it's a bummer that he got sent to. I think got traded to Dallas.
Oof.
So like, but as far as the Bills go, I think their secondary is still pretty good. Christian Benford's a great player. He just got that big extension, as he should. He's a phenomenal player, and he really saved their draft class that year because they drafted Kyer Lamb in the 5th and they drafted Christian Benford in, I think, the 6th or the 5th. So I'm looking forward to that. Taron Johnson's still a good nickel corner. He kind of lost a step. They re-added Tre'Davious White. I really don't think that's going to matter. I don't think he can play anymore.
I think it's more of like a depth piece. He's there because he's a name, and like
Buffalo
fans really attach themselves to certain names. There's certain names that fans fall in love with very easily there.
Yeah, they also have Dane Jackson, who filled in more at corner this past year than he did before. He's really more of a special teamer. So I'm curious that there, Greg Rousseau is also, again, I'm just every team we're going down, I'm just like thinking, who are their pass rushers and will that be a problem? Again, if the Patriots line is playing as they should,
Maxwell
that's
Harrison
good,
as well.
but they have Max Hairston now. They have AJ Epinesa, Michael Hoyt, and they have Gregory Rousseau in that front. Who's suspended?
Remember Michael Hoyt? I think him and
is he out for?
Remember
week
they
5?
signed 2 guys who got the 6-game suspensions for. They got popped for PEDs.
Oh wow! See, I completely missed on that. Cool, sick. That'll help. Yeah, you always got to look at their lines because again, I just maybe I'm not enough of a believer. I got to believe a little more, but I'm really concerned about the Patriots' offensive line in general. I think on paper it looks serviceable. I just know that the games aren't played on paper, so I'm a little worried in that regard. And that team, I think, is going to be a lot tougher to run on than anyone's kind of expecting. So, we'll see how that looks. The secondary still looks pretty good. Offensively, Khalil Shakir obviously is a fantastic player, and he is someone who I knew was going to be fantastic. They signed Laviska Shenault, who, for whatever reason, I can't quit. Like, anytime someone signs Laviska Shenault, I'm just like, hey, he's going to be really good. Just watch. This is the year. And he's never had more than 650 yards in a season, in a single season of receiving. So, I don't know why I still buy in, but this might be the year. He might be really good.
Larry Okunjobi is the other guy who got popped as well.
Okay, cool.
They also have Joey Bosa as well.
Oh, shoot. I completely forgot about Joey Bosa. Yes, they did sign Joey Bosa because I kind of, in my mind, I was like, oh, he went to the Niners. Too. And Josh Palmer is a very good player. Yeah, absolutely. And they signed Elijah Moore. And I like Elijah Moore. I've always liked Elijah Moore. But I don't know if it's going to happen for him. I think
have a great game against the Jets. I'm just waiting for that.
Yes, that'll be fun. I think he's a little redundant to oh my goodness, Curtis Samuel. I think he's a little redundant to Curtis Samuel as far as like what they're going to be asked to do. Yeah. So I don't know that he like makes it outright out of camp, but if he does, he's a good player. Keon Coleman's going to have a good year. Again, I know some people were a little weird with him, where they were like, "Oh, he's really not that good." He's kind
of because Xavier Worthy popped, and everyone thought,
yeah. I don't know. I think he can be like a real issue, and he provides a lot of size. But again, the Patriots have the size at corner to kind of handle him, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And their tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. On paper, that should be a problem, except like
Knox has been on a milk crate since the last couple seasons.
Agreed. But carton. Are you ready for like my kind of like hot take?
Ooh,
my kind of hot take.
What off season's for?
And it's gonna sound, people are gonna be like, what? Yeah. But just hear me out on this. I don't know that Dalton Kincaid is an impact player. Like first round pick at tight end, and tight end's a tough position to transition, and statistically it looks fine. He has like something like 1,100 yards, but 4 touchdowns. He doesn't make any of like the tough catches, and it feels like his best plays come when he 1 makes a move on a scramble drill, or 2 is schemed into open space. I don't know about Dalton Kincaid. Like it's weird to call him a disappointment because, like, again, statistically, and especially for a tight end, it doesn't, it's like this is kind of how they are. But 400, and I just looked it up here, 450 yards last year, 2 touchdowns on 44 catches, played 13 games. Just not really what you're looking for as far as like impact player goes. So I guess we'll see. And Dawson Knox was really good a few years ago. I thought he was going to be the next guy up. But like you said, he's kind of been on a milk carton ever since.
Dawson Knox also did have that tragedy. He did lose his brother a few years ago as well. He hasn't really been the same since. But with Dalton, though, he's very interesting because I feel like he's not that like upper echelon tight end like Sam Laporta, George Kittle.
Yep.
He kind of falls into that like Noah Fant category where it's like they're good, but they're not great.
Yeah. And Noah Fant, I mean, God, what a player, huh? But
that was a piece when they traded Russell. I'm like, why are the Broncos trading him? I know they
it's like you didn't have to add Noah Fant in there. Like you kind of got
been nice in that Bronco offense right now.
Absolutely, but at the time they had Greg Dulcich, and they're like, he's going to be so good, and then he was off the team within a year. So, and they also had Alberto Quebonum, who a lot of people thought was going to be like that guy, and then he got hurt and just didn't come back as the same guy.
Yep. And then week 6 at the Saints, which McGarvin's favorite quarterback, Derek Carr, is retired.
Mercifully.
Which I
we're
guess
free.
There is a video of a Saints fan just like I don't know if I have it. It's on TikTok, but I'll text it to you later. But he's basically saying like, "Oh, thank the Lord! Now we got to get rid of Mickey Loomis." Which
goodness, what are they doing?
The Saints are that team, and I know this because my father and sister are Saints fans, but they basically are the team that they need to rip the Band-Aid off, and they need to go into the wilderness for a few years, where it's just
but they won't with Mickey Loomis there, and that's the problem.
I think they're waiting for those guys to retire, like the Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu. They have some nice he's more traded. He'll be traded more before he retires, I think.
Yeah, but he's 29 at this point. Like, it's,
I hate saying that's old. I'm only 31.
Yes, but for running back, he may as well be 40.
I know. But no, that's the thing. The Saints are that team right now where it's like, I think that their fans think they're going to be like serviceably okay. But then apart from Calvin Banks, I think it's going to be nice for them. They're doing some good things on an offensive line. But if they're bad and they realize that I don't know if Arch is coming out for sure or not, but if they realize they can get him, or the name I think people aren't talking enough about is Drew Aller from Penn State.
Sure.
If one of those two guys is in their grasp, I'm sorry, and I know Tyler Show was a second-round pick, you go with what you can do. I just think the Saints are going to be bad on accident instead of bad on purpose. Kind of like, how us in 2023, where we were like, hey, we could be good. And then we realized quickly, oh, no, like we're bad.
Yeah.
I think that's what possibly could happen to the Saints this year.
Yeah.
They'll win a couple games to be like, we're back, we're in it. And then there's a couple games where it's like, no, honey. Like, honey, take a seat.
I think they're going
to put your hand down. They're
going to compete for a top 3 draft pick. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to compete, and they're going to be contenders in that role. Like, I think because I look at it,
Cleveland right now.
I think Cleveland is actually in better shape. I'm going to be so honest with you.
They did the big boy thing. I had to talk a fan off. Sorry to cut you off. I had to talk one of my best close friends on the show. He's a Cleveland fan. Off the edge on draft night. I like the fact that they looked ahead to the future because there's a very good chance that Jacksonville pick is a top 10 or top 15 pick as well if the Jags don't have a good season.
Sure. I look at the Saints, and my biggest thing with them is I think they have by far the worst quarterback room in the league. And that's including Cleveland, who has an awful quarterback room as well. But you're looking, and it's Derek Carr, who's retired, so and really wasn't that good. No how.
Jake Haener,
can't play. Spencer Rattler is not ready to play. And then they drafted Shug, and I don't think he can play. And he's also like 50 years old, so you don't even have time to like figure it out with him. And I think that's why I just don't love. One, I didn't love them drafting him for a number of reasons, but the fact that he's 20, he'll be 26 this year.
It's the Will Levis effect.
It means that you kind of just got to get him out there immediately. And he wasn't that good in the first place, so it's tough. And then you look at what they're doing, at their skill positions. They have Chris Olave, obviously, very good player.
People were asking. The Giants apparently inquired about trading him.
Oh, really? That
Yeah.
would have been fun. Now, I could see them trading him as well, just because this team's kind of going nowhere. But again, there's a team that's just like, no, don't worry, we're good. Like we're gonna just reload. We're gonna reload. But you have Chris Olave, and then the guys behind him just don't inspire any confidence. Like they're recognizable names, but they're not the guys that you're like, oh yeah, that's a good receiver. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I mean, he's kind of bounced around the last few years after a pretty hottish start for Cleveland, right? As a day 3 pick, he kind of came out there and he kind of did his thing. You're like, okay, like he kind of play a little bit. And he's kind of bounced around the last couple of years. Dante Pettis, who has literally never been good. Mason Tipton, who's never caught a football cleanly, despite being fast as shit. Cedric Wilson Jr., who again, I am shocked is still in the league. He's a good player. I just didn't know he was still in the league. So that was a surprise. Rashid Shaheed coming off that injury. He's a phenomenal player, though. And then they have Brandon Cooks, who I think is a lot of fun. I just kind of don't know what he has left. I don't know, man. I think the Saints are going to be bad. Give me that one. Give me that one in a clean W.
Yeah, and also too, it's a game like if I were to go to a road game this year, I very much circled that one on my calendar.
Holy cow, right? Because you're going to be in New Orleans. Like there's going to be great food. Like the game's not going to be stressful. Like it sounds like a nice little vacation.
3:25 kick local too, so you can get up, you can watch 12 o'clock, watch the 1 o'clock games at 12 o'clock, make your way over to the stadium, keep tabs in there. And then the Sunday nighter that week is Lions and Chiefs. So it just kind of all gels together pretty well. Yeah, but no, I just think like the Saints is one of those things where it's like there'll be some bright moments, but then for the most part, it's like they were 5 wins last year. I feel like it's gonna be like the same thing this year, but then it's like I don't know how much the fans are anticipating it at the moment.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots to finish this 3-game road trip off, the Mike Vrabel revenge game at the Tennessee Titans.
I don't have a ton to say about the Titans. I think they're bad. It's not really a hot take. Like, it's just not very good. I don't really see anything that they have that I'm like, yes, this is like something you can hang your hat on. I think as far as their pass rush, it's kind of like Jeffrey Simmons and the guys. So it's like, okay. It's like mostly Jeffrey Simmons. Their linebackers don't move me. Their secondary doesn't move me. Offensively, that offensive line should be better than it is, but like I don't really think it's that good. I think they have a lot of names that you feel like pretty good about. And I know JC Latham, they drafted him in the first round last year, and he wasn't really that good. Like he wasn't bad, but he wasn't like we all kind of thought like, maybe he could be like Joe Alt. He was not Joe Alt. Joe Alt was not. Yeah. So I was like, their running game doesn't really bother. It doesn't really move me. Traylon Burks is going to be a Patriot at some point. That's going to be fun. Could you believe? I remember when he was coming out, he was my wide receiver 1. I was like, this guy's like legit. Like he can run it, he can catch it, he can make it happen. And then he just didn't. So that's a bummer. Obviously, Calvin Ridley is still over there, but rookie quarterbacks, I'm just not going to put too much stock in them. We'll see.
And then Cleveland, look, Cleveland's Cleveland. I think they're doing the responsible thing where it's like, hey, this isn't our year. We're not in a position to win. We are still stuck in the Watson situation. We're building towards our future. And I'll be honest with you, them and Travis Hunter would have been fun, but Mason Graham was a smart pick for them to make. You need someone up the middle there to help Myles Garrett out. And you know what? Build with whatever small pieces you can get and go from there. The Gabriel Shador situation will figure itself out. But also, too, with Nick Chubb going down, I really like that Judkins pick for them in the second round.
Yeah, I'm
not saying he's gonna be good. Like he's gonna be.
I think he's gonna be good. I think he's gonna be good as well. With Cleveland, it's man, like I just really don't know what the plan is, right? Like I think they're the team. They're the team the most that I just don't really understand what the plan is. I know that with the Saints, I think has a worse roster. Yeah. But you kind of see what they think they're going to do. With Cleveland, I'm not even sure what they think they want to do. Like, I really haven't figured it out. Maybe they go with like the suffocating defense approach where they're like, hey, we got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, who might be traded. We got Myles Garrett. We got Mason Graham. JOK, but JOK is out for the year.
That's what I'm saying. They
Like,
sadly lost him.
yeah, you're like, they have Obo Okwankwo, who everyone kind of thought was going to be a bigger factor as far as the pass rush on the other side of Myles Garrett. He really wasn't. They also have what's his name from Tampa, second round pick. What's his name? Joe Tryon Shawinka.
Yes.
He hasn't really been an impactful player in that regard. So like, I don't know. I don't really love what they got going on. I just like what is the expectation? Like, what can we realistically expect out of this team? Like, they have some guys here and there. Their best player in their secondary is probably Grant Delpit or Denzel Ward. Probably Denzel Ward.
I go Ward.
Yeah, I think Grant Delpit is really underrated though, so I wanted to give him a little shout out, but that's a little aggressive. Yeah, I think it's Denzel Ward and then Grant Delpit. He's a really good player. They signed Rayshawn Jenkins, who I think is a really good safety as well, a really good box safety. He can still play a little bit. I just don't know what they're doing offensively. David Njoku is fine. David Bell, I really don't think can play. Jerry Jeudy had a good year. And they signed Deontay Johnson, and I just can't wait for them to cut him because he's kind of a pain in the ass. Because, like, goodness, has a guy's career ever had a worse, 12 months? Like, he played for 4 teams last year. Guys just didn't really want him around because, like, he's kind of a pain in the ass. So you take a pain in the ass and you add him to a team that, from the outside looking in, looks like it kind of just needs a little more leadership. And that's the guy you choose to bring in. I don't really love that.
And then the Patriots are on.
And then obviously they're sorry. And then obviously their quarterback. I cannot let this go.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with Dylan Gabriel? Like, what the fuck was that about? Like, that, my goodness. What I don't understand it, because if you're going to take Shedeur anyways,
take him at 93.
Yes. Why bother with this whole farce? Because now you've added another player that you cannot realistically move on from to that quarterback room. So, right, you have Dylan Gabriel, you have Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson's going to be out for the year, but he is still on their books, and Joe Flacco is going to be one of their quarterbacks as well. So it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that about?
Watson will be put on PUP.
And then also, I completely blanked. They traded for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
So what are they doing?
I just think you're right. They're in purgatory right now where it's like, but they're purgatory leaning towards bad, where I don't think they're going to be like bottom of the pit terrible, but they're not.
I think their defense is going to keep them in a lot more games than they have any right to be in.
It's going to be like the 23 Patriots in the sense where it's like you're not getting your ass kicked all the time, but it's going to be like you're going to lose some really bad games. Like,
yep.
Yeah, there's going to be some like bad losses. Like, there's going to be a couple blowouts, but for the most part, there's going to be like some 14-10s and just like ugly games like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my next one was going on to Atlanta. Like, that's a test because that's smack dab in the middle of the season. One thing I'll say about them, I honestly think Bijan's going to enter into the OPOY / MVP conversation. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think this is the year where people realize, oh, that's why they took him as high as they did. That's like the player we've been waiting to see finally emerges this year, because I've been saying this too for Atlanta. If they don't improve, I can just see Arthur Blank pulling the chute and cleaning house because he's just an impatient old man.
Yeah. But to that point, I think they will.
I think they're going to be good. I just can see if shit goes south, it can go that way. And also too, Drake London's a very nice piece. I don't think that gets talked about enough.
Yeah, he's a really good route runner, especially for someone that size. You kind of expect like, oh, he's going to be like a contested catch merchant, and that's not really his game at all. He's just like, he will route you up, and I think that's exciting. And they also still have Kyle Pitts, who, I mean,
everyone's waiting for
it. It could happen. It could happen if he plays like we think he can play. That offense is going to be absolutely insane because they still have Darnell Mooney over there. They got what's his name, the undrafted Nick Nash. I know a lot of people really liked him. They think he's going to be like a real player for them. And I know with an undrafted player, you're kind of like, it's a little, probably a little strong. And they also, people forget this, but they added Super Bowl winning wide receiver and Patriot legend Philip Dorsett. Philip Dorsett. I think that's going to be a fun team. Jamal Agnew as one of their returners. But let's talk about their defense, because like that was the side of the ball that we were probably the most worried about, right? Like as a football watching, as a football watching population, everyone was kind of worried about like, hey, can they make it happen on defense? But they went out and they got Jalen Walker. That was who I was forgetting earlier, and they got James Pierce in the first round. I mean, those are both like impactful edge rushers. Granted, they're going to be rookies, so you kind of expect a learning curve. But you have those two, and then they also signed Leonard Floyd. I think that's a really nice rotation of pass rushers there. I think their secondary was good last year. I think it's going to be good again this year. Obviously, we'll see. Well, yeah, right. We'll see what we get out of that other safety position opposite Jesse Bates. But because last year they had Buddy from Denver. What was his name? Former first rounder. He was one of the best safeties in the league for a while. Justin Simmons. Simmons is who I'm blanking on.
Well, I wanted in New England.
Yes, same. They had Justin Simmons last year. Obviously, he's not there this year. Still unsigned though, so he could theoretically return. But we'll see what they get out of that other safety position. But I think they can be like a frisky team. I think Michael Penix is a way better player than a lot of people seem to. And I think that's just mostly because the Falcons were disappointing, so people just didn't see a lot of them. But he's like a competent player. Like, you're like, at worst, he is a solid quarterback. At absolute worst. And you're like, you can do worse. You feel all right with that. You let him play his game. I think you're in good hands there.
Yeah.
I think that game could be tough.
That game, that's another coin flip game in my opinion, kind of like the Steeler game where it can go either way. Yeah. And then the next game, I'm going to still say this though. This team finds a way in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone going into the year is going to kind of like, I'm not saying they're going to be good, but it's going to be between them and Atlanta. One's going to finish 9-8. One's going to finish 8-9, and we go about our way.
I think they're going to be like outright good. I am in on the Bucs. I don't know. They have
a nice offensive line, by the way.
I am so yes, they do. I am so tired of doubting them. I'm always just like, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. Ever since Brady left, I'm like, we'll see what they do. Fuck all that. I think they're gonna be good, like just outright good.
Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, adding Emeka wide receiver.
Yep.
Abuka. Also to Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan as well. Very nice pieces as well.
Yep.
They have a really good rotation at receiver. They have, like I said, a good running back. Graham Barton at center and Cody Mouch at right guard. I'm really big fans of, along with Tristan Wirfs, Brent Breederson, and Luke Gadecki. But here's the thing. That defensive line is big and scary.
Emphasis on the big. Holy cow. Those are some guys. They got some fellas. Like, and that's what makes them so tough. Like, they are a tough team to run on.
Even that linebacker, too. They added Anthony Walker Jr. and Hassan Reddick.
Yeah. Yes. And Hassan Reddick is due for a bounce back year. I think, obviously, that weirdness with the Jets last year, that's kind of beyond them. I think
the Jets.
Yes, it's the Jets. I don't think it's him. I think it's them. I think that D-line is going to be so tough to run on, and I think the Patriots are going to be a bit more of a run-oriented team, less so than last year, right? Because second year you kind of figured out Drake May can be the guy, so you're gonna want to throw the football a little more, but they're gonna rely on their running game as well. And I think that game is going to be tough because they got Vita Vea, they got Kalijah Cansey. That is just a tough line to run on.
Schedule we'll loss game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Like,
bad day at the office, just 10 to 14 points. You take your medicine, you go home.
Yep, and you're just like, well, what can you do? They were just better than us, and that's kind of how I see that game going for sure.
To which then they play Thursday Night Football home against the New York Jets, and I'm going to say this right now: did they add some pieces in the draft that I liked? Yes. Are they still the Jets? Yes.
Yep.
With that being said, though, I don't think they're going to be 5-12 bad, but because some Jets fans are just not excited to watch their team right now. I still feel like they'll hover around 6 to 8 wins. I think them and the Patriots are in that similar category where it's like it can go one of two ways. It's like, hey, you either do some stuff to win, or you keep status quo and you find a way to, just be the irrelevant team that you've come to know to be over the last 15 years. I feel like there's no in between with them. Like, they have some pieces, but a lot of your question marks are at the biggest positions of worry.
Yeah. you put me in as a W there, and for the
Oh,
next Jets
same. I'm
game
just saying as
as
a thing
a
overall of the Jets.
spoiler. I do like what they're doing with their offensive line, though. They added Armand Membo this year. Last year they added Olufashino. I think those are both phenomenal tackles. They were both my favorite tackles in their respective draft classes, so that was a bummer. They added Mason Taylor, the tight end. That was another bummer because I think that guy's going to be awesome. But all that said, the Jets are the Jets. The Jets are the Jets. So go ahead and count that as a W. I got to see it to believe it. I think their secondary is still going to be pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner is an interesting player because for whatever reason, people seem to think he's like not that good. But he very much is that good. And I don't really know why people are like, oh, he's a hold merchant, or oh, he just gets away with all these penalties. He's not that good. And I'm like, he's phenomenal. Like, what are we talking about? Like, if you're talking about like young corners, like they look like that. They look like that. Like that's what they look like. They look like him. They look like Christian Gonzalez. Like these are the kind of like upper echelon like defenders you want. Like
yep.
We're in a weird spot where you're looking at a guy like that and you're like, he's not that good. Like that's silly.
Exactly. But they have the pieces there. They also have like the Williams brothers on the D line and the front seven as well, Quinnen and Quincy.
Mm-hmm.
They got some pieces. It's like I said, they just gotta show us. They gotta show us something. And then the Bengals game, I'm chalking that up one as a loss. I think this is a huge year for that franchise because you've paid everyone now, and if you can't put it together, there's going to be jobs that are going to be lost. That's the only thing I have to say with the Bengals.
The Bengals are so interesting because offensively, that's a loss for the Patriots. You're like, man, like that offense is going to kill them. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
But if Drake May is who we think he is,
yes, and I don't think he needs to be that much to do what he needs to do against that defense. That defense,
ready for 45 to 43?
Goodness, look,
are you ready for Big 12 Oklahoma football?
It could be that way because I think the Bengals defense absolutely hurting. Like they are just like not very good. And then they went out in the draft and they drafted a bunch of guys who are just traits. You're like, yeah, this guy is like high end athleticism. It's like, yeah, but like, how is he like playing the game? Like, yeah, but if he's playing at all, he's firing at all cylinders, he can like really give it to you. And you're like, yeah, but like, what if he's not? Like, right, like their guys oscillate so much. Shamar Stewart, who they drafted out of Texas A&M, and he's someone who a lot of people like that's like a high end, like, oh, like he can be an impactful player next year. He's a little raw, right? He's just a little raw. Demetrius Knight, they also took a linebacker, and you're looking at him, and you're like, he's gonna be like pretty good again next year. And that's just kind of their story of their draft class, and that's been their story of their draft classes last few years, where they're just taking guys with like high end makeups, and they're like, yes, we are just going to develop these guys into like X kind of players, right? They took Joseph Asai a couple years ago, one of their edge rushers, and they were like, oh, and Dax Hill is a good player. I like Dax Hill, especially now that they kind of get him settled at outside corner.
I'm like, not Jesse Bates. They brought him in to replace Jesse Bates.
Sure. And I think that's where the mistake was because I think he's a better safety he's a better corner than he is a safety. Yes. I think he's played much better corner. Last year he played a lot of like outside corner, and that was just out of necessity. They lost a ton of guys, and they were like, all right. They had their rookies out there, Josh Newton, and I'm blanking on the other corner, but they had two young corners, and then they had Cam Taylor-Britt as like the vet, and he had an absolutely atrocious year. Dax Hill was out there, and up until he got hurt, it was like he was like a good player as well. So we'll see what happens there. But I think they're a team that like they just need to be right on a lot of the picks they've made the last couple of years because they've picked a lot of good athletes that could be good football players instead of just taking good football players. And then obviously, offensively they'll be fine. But my goodness, what a whiff that Jermaine Burton pick is looking out to be. Everyone's like, oh yeah, when he came out, yep, that's gonna be a steal. It's gonna be a steal. And Buddy can't even get off the casino, get out of the casino in time to play the football game. Tough life. But yeah, I agree. Could be a high scoring game. I can go either way though. I think the Patriots kind of given it to them last year, and I know they only won by like 6 points, but if you watched the game, and I know you did, and I'm talking to people who may not have watched the game and kind of just caught it after or whatever. If you actually like watched the game, the Patriots were winning the entire time. You're just like, damn, they're just like kind of kicking their ass. Like, and the score doesn't reflect that, but like at no point did it feel like, oh yes, the Patriots are going to lose the game. Like they just got out ahead and they're like, oh, we're just going to cruise. And I think that is the same thing that can kind of happen because that defense is not good enough. And the Bengals are a slow starting team. Luckily, this game is like not at the beginning of the year, right? So like by this point of the year, they should have it going. They just can't really afford any injuries, except really at like wide receiver. They really can't afford any injuries because their depth chart is a little top heavy.
Yeah, but with wide receiver though, they have it Chase Higgins and Yoshi Vosh, but then after that, Burton, Charlie Jones, Kendrick Pryor, Isaiah Wilson, Cole Burgess, and Mitchell Tinsley. Those are that's their
those last three names, no clue who those fellas are, but I'm happy for them.
The only worry with them defensively is, besides the next year thing, is the Trey Hendrickson situation. That's something to very much watch for.
They're gonna have to figure that out.
That got really ugly last week in the press.
Yeah, that's tough. He went out there, he made a soliloquy, and he kind of threw the team under the bus. Like, hey, they told us we'd kind of revisit it, and they didn't. And I think he made such a great point when he said, if I had four sacks, they'd be looking for a pay cut. They'd be looking for a little bit of money back. And I well exceeded that. He led the league in sacks. He was at 17.5, I think it was. Pay the man. And I know it's tough. Obviously, you just paid Chase. You just paid Higgins. Like, it's tough. But I'm of the belief that as far as salary caps go, people will say things like the cap's not real, and I don't buy that at all. But it is always easier to extend your guys than it is to like add new guys. Like the cap is a really big restriction for player acquisition, not for player retention. You can you can structure the deal in a way that fits him under the cap nicely. They just really don't want to do that because he's kind of an older player. He's going to be 31 this year. And I get that. That's fair. But like, don't lie to the guy. Don't be like, hey, we're gonna revisit it next year, only for him to have a monster year. And you're like, oh no, like, let's not do that. That's shitty.
They did it with Jamar Chase, and look where it got him.
Yeah. And again, these are all things that could have been ironed out if you just weren't so frugal at the outset. Like, you had the opportunity to kind of to get him at a discount, and you passed on that, and this is what you get. This is what you get. Exactly right. And then another player that kind of gets lost in the shuffle is Myles Murphy.
Yep.
Defensive end. You're like, yeah, that guy's gonna be real good. I think he only still has like 2 sacks on the year, 2 sacks in his career over the last 2 years, including none last year. It's goodness. But that's another guy where you're just like, y'all just need to be right. You need to be correct on this one.
And then after that, Thanksgiving Day, I think the NFL got it amazing with the Bengals and Ravens is the nightcap, but Lions, Packers, Chiefs, Cowboys, which that's going to draw.
Most certainly. And it's going to have a lot of opinions. And if you're with your family on that day, your uncle who really loves the Cowboys from the olden days, like, he's going to have a lot of thoughts, and that's going to be a really fun game. I need it to be as high scoring. I need that to be healthy, though. I need him to make it to that game, at least that game, because I think that'll be like, if he is healthy, that could be a fireworks kind of game.
1,000%. Call me crazy too, though. I do think there's a chance that the Cowboys, I'm not here to say that they're going to be going all the way and winning the Super Bowl. No, I'm not delusional like that. I do think they'll be nice. I just think that they're caught in a bad division as well.
Agree.
Yeah, like they'll be in the mixed team, but like, I don't like, they're like a potential to be like that 7th, 9th seed. Like, I think they'll be like a 9 and 8 or 10. They're in like the same situation as the Patriots.
Honestly. Yeah, I think they're gonna have to win their way into the postseason late into the year.
I know he was considered poison in Chicago, but I think Eberflus as a DC is a kind of a good thing for him.
Sure. He can coordinate the hell out of a defense. Maybe not. He shouldn't sit in the big chair, but I think he's a good coordinator.
Exactly. And then Friday, Bears Eagles is a very interesting game. I feel like it's just them going, hey, Bears have potential. Eagles Super Bowl champions. Boom, play at 3:00. Even though I feel like that should have been divisional. To which leads us to the ending of Thanksgiving, which is the Patriots and the Giants. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is a game the Patriots win. I just think, look, the Giants' defensive front seven is nice. They have improved in the secondary, but their secondary still needs a little bit of work, in my opinion. I know they got a Debo. I know they got Javon Holland. They do have, I believe, but then they have Banks, who really had an okay rookie year, but he was like, you never really heard much from him last year.
Yeah, he was. Not only was he like not that good last year, I think he was bad. Like, he was just out there, and you're like, holy shit! Like, number 3 is not playing well. He shouldn't have changed his number. That's the first problem. But he's out there in number 3, and he's just not playing well. He's being outplayed by Cordell Flott, and you're like, huh, that's weird.
And then their front is nice. Is just I think a lot of it's going to depend on 2 things, offensively and defensively. How healthy is Andrew Thomas, and how healthy is Dexter Lawrence?
Yep. Because if those guys are all healthy, I think they have some absolute work to do in the trenches. Obviously, Evan Neal is, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, he's going to be playing guard for them. We'll see how that works out. But other than that, I kind of like what they got going on their offensive line. I know it's not like perfect. That right tackle situation kind of needs to be sorted out, but I think it's a good team. I think it's a good unit, even if all the individual pieces aren't quite there yet. Their front 7, like you mentioned, is insane. Brian Burns is still there. He is disgusting. Kayvon Thibodeau, he's kind of a weird dude, but like he can play ball, so like you feel all right with that. Linebacker, their linebackers really don't move me too much, but that is what it is. And their secondary, we mentioned Cordell Flott. They still have Tay Banks, who needs a bounce back year in the worst way. And one of their day 3 rookies, they drafted Corey Black out of Oklahoma State. I think he can play. I think he has a legitimate shot to like have some real snaps for them. So, when Corey Black is tearing it up in November, just remember where you heard it first. It was here.
Yeah, it was right here. And then a take I have for their team, I know Tracy had a really good rookie season. I think by that point, too, there's a very good chance Cam Skattebo RB1 or a worst case RB2. Because Devin Singletary.
No shot. Really? I believe in Tyrone Tracy. Oh no, he's a good player. He's a good player.
I like Skattebo at ASU, and I just know he's that kind of like he's going to be a good player. But like we'll see what happens. Just because with like their line too, I'm looking at it. They have Runyon at left guard. They have Thomas at left tackle. Right now, Evan Neal is 3rd right guard behind Marcus Membo and Greg Van Rotten, and then they have a Luminor at right tackle, Patriot legend. And then John Michael Schmitz at center is good too. So I do agree with you there. I'm a Cam Skattebo guy. That's all. The only position of worry for me for them is Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger at tight end. They've not had a good tight end because Evan Ingram was terrible since Jeremy Shockey.
I think Theo Johnson's going to be like, I think he's in his adjustment period.
Serviceable.
I think he's going to be good eventually. I think like on paper, like you see it with him, but they also have Greg Dulcich, who I mentioned earlier. He had a couple good games with the Broncos a couple years ago, and people were like, "Oh, this guy can play." I don't really think he can. And Chris Manhurst is the best blocking tight end in the league. He's also over there, I think. Yeah, we'll see. I count that as a W right there.
Chris Ford legacy game, by the way.
Oh, right, he's there. Right, special teams legend for the Patriots that one year when they really wanted to fix their special teams and it really didn't work.
Belichickian signing if I've ever seen one.
Absolutely.
And then the other player they have that I like is Raheem Nunez Roches.
Yep.
Very solid defensive end. And then they have Chauncey Golston on the other side too, mixed in there as well with where even is Kayvon Thibodeau on this step? Thibodeau's not on this depth chart. I'm looking at ESPN. It's literally Nunez, Roches, Lawrence, Golston, Burns, Okereke, McFadden, Carter, Paulson Adebo, Tyler Newbin, Javon Holland, Deontay Banks, and then Drew Phillips.
Do they know something we don't know?
Maybe. I don't know.
He should be on there. As far as their wide receivers go, I mean, we didn't really touch on their offense too much. Jalen Hyatt, my goodness, I thought he was going to be like a stud out of the gate, and he's shown flashes.
Robinson's is a pretty serviceable player for them too.
Wandale Robertson, I think he's like good though. I think he's like not even serviceable. I think he's like good. Like I think he's like you kind of got to watch for 17. Like he might, you know what I mean? Like you sleep on him, he might give you a little something to think about. Malik Neighbors, obviously very good. Darius Slayton, who I kind of thought should have been a Patriots target, never really even made it to the market. He got there and more or less immediately re-signed. And then they signed little Jordan Humphreys, another Patriot legend, an absolute monster gunner. I like that guy a lot. Not as a receiving threat, but like as a football player. He covers kicks so well. He just keeps getting checks.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, you're right on that one. I was just also pulling up because I was curious because my ADD brain went off during this, and right now, the Patriots do not have as much cap room as I thought, but good Lord, the Chargers have a lot to work with next offseason. Chargers have $126 million in cap space.
So the thing with cap space is right now the Patriots have about 60 some odd million. And if they don't make any huge
32.
moves, ooh, that is not the number I saw. Spot Track had them at 65.
Ooh, this is Spot Track.
Ooh. All right, let's see.
Minnesota and Detroit and Kansas City are all in hell right now, along with the Miami Dolphins at minus 13 million, minus 23, minus 26.
Oh, are you looking for next year?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about this year. So the Patriots have about 60 some odd million this year. They can roll that
67.
Yes, they can roll that into next year as long as they don't make any huge moves. So I think that's where you kind of because I don't believe they project the rollover cap until late into the season.
Oh, okay. So
So I was like, they have a ton of money this year. They can roll that into next year because they don't really like free agency is over, right? They're not like putting any big numbers on the books, and they don't have any extensions pending where you're like, hey, they have to extend this guy this year. So they're going to be able to roll over a big chunk of that $67 million.
Yeah, you know what? They're going to. I'm excited to see it for when it happens. And next offseason is next offseason. We can worry about that then. It was just my brain going, ooh, what position are they in for next year? So right now is at 32, and then they're currently still sitting at 67. So they'll probably be somewhere around like 90, and then plus the cap will go up too. So they'll probably be well over 100.
Yep.
With their only big concern at the moment is going to be Gonzo. Besides that, everyone else is locked up, and I imagine there'll be some moves that will impact a few things. But Patriots, look, the late buy, I'm not a fan of it. I personally love that like week 10, week 11 buy, like smack dab right in the middle there.
Agree.
Just have the buy there, settle it, and be gone. Week 15, Buffalo at home. Look, I think there's a chance they split with Buffalo, but this is also a game too where Buffalo, we don't know what they'll be playing for at that time. We don't. That's both Buffalo games are a coin flip game this year, in my opinion. And I know that's crazy to sound like, but look, I could see Buffalo this year honestly being good, but not making it as easy as last year was, where people were counting them out. Now everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Buffalo, they're going to go do this. They're going to go do this. They're going to do this, and they're just going to win the division easily." When they have one of their biggest games of the year in week 17 against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. That game is going to be interesting because I think there's a very real possibility that both teams are going to be playing for something. Like I mentioned, I think the Patriots are going to win 9-10 games. I think they're still going to be like in the hunt. They're going to be in the hunt graphic straight through December.
All I can ask for.
All you can ask for is like, hey, we just appear on the graphic. We're good. Keep the path alive. I think this is going to be one of those games that will determine whether or not the Patriots make it into the playoffs. Because given how late it is, and given, obviously the divisional game, it's an AFC game, and then they go from there immediately into Baltimore. So that's going to be huge. If they are going to want to be a playoff team, they're going to have to win at least one of those games. And for my money, I think Buffalo is the likelier win than Baltimore, especially because it's a divisional game, and divisional games are weird. They're always weird across every division in the league. Like, people will see their team lose a division game, and they're like, "Well, how did that happen? That team sucks." And I'm like, "It's the division. Like, it happens." And that's also why, small aside, it's also why Philly getting Dallas, 2 and 3. That matters, right? Because everyone looks at it like, well, yeah, but Dallas isn't as good as Philly. And I'm like, yes, but it's a division game, and they could very, very easily split, and no one would bat an eye. So all that to say, the Patriots are going to have to win one of those two games. One of those two games against the Bills and the Ravens. And for my money, I think the Bills one is more likely.
If they can go 3-3 in division this year, I will take it as a W.
Yeah.
2-4, I just don't think is acceptable. If they can split with everyone, or even if they go 0-2 against one division team, but then they sweep another, I will take it.
Yeah.
I don't. The last time I think they swept someone was the Jets in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I think.
The last time they swept?
Swept a divisional opponent. They haven't swept Miami in God knows how long.
Did we sweep New York in 22? Let's see. That was the Marcus.
That was the Marcus Jones game.
Yes, the Marcus Jones game. Did we win the second one as well?
No, the first one they won.
Oh, the first one was was that the Zach Wilson game? No, that was 21. What
Franklin
game?
Myers.
The freshman Myers game?
The roughing the passer call on him that shouldn't have been called and was a fumble on Mac.
I don't remember it.
I just remember that play happening. It was a very low event game.
Okay.
And then the Marcus Jones game was literally 59 minutes and like 20 seconds of shit football. And then Kevin Harlan
Marcus Jones like electrified the crowd. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's what I remember from that. But yeah, so if they can sweep a divisional opponent this year, I will gladly take that. Baltimore, look, that's just a game of Baltimore's going to be clicking on all cylinders.
Goodness. Yeah.
They got them at the wrong time.
Yeah. They are the team that they just get better as the year goes along. And a lot of teams do, obviously. But I think the difference is a lot of teams start slow and then just kind of get better. They usually come out hot. Then they like sag in like the early middle of the year. Like last year, I remember they lost to the Raiders and it was like, the fuck's going on here? And then they like caught their stride and they were like, actually, we're just going to do what we do. I think that it's tough to have to play them at the end of the year because by that point, like they've already figured out what they needed to figure out. John Harbaugh has already made all those adjustments, and Lamar is doing what Lamar does. So that is tough. That's when I'm gonna go ahead and chalk that up as an L, especially because I think their team is so good.
They have such a tough. So they had the Week 7 bye, but their first 6 games at the Bills, versus Cleveland, versus Detroit,
okay,
at Kansas City, versus the Texans, and versus the Rams. Like they're good. I feel like that 6-game stretch they could be 4-2 or 5-1, but I feel like there's a lot of tests in there, and then after that it gets easier because they literally go Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals.
Yep. Yeah, that's so I say W, and I'm just that's mostly in jest, but it's interesting because like they could win, like you said, they could go 5-1 in that stretch. They could also go 3-3, and if they do go 3-3, you don't actually feel that bad about it because you're like, yeah, but they're gonna like figure it out to like, post bye, they're gonna come out and they're gonna figure it out because that's just how they've been over the last few years. I'm curious to see like what it's going to take to stop them because I think they're going to be a team that can like really make it happen. Derrick Henry just signed that big extension and it's well deserved, right? He's over 30 years old and he's a guy you're paying $25 million guaranteed to at the running back position. But like, I think it's so interesting because I feel like I didn't pay enough attention statistically to how Derrick Henry was playing last year. I think obviously he's Derrick Henry, so like intuitively, like, oh yeah, Derrick Henry's having a good year because like you can say that at any point in his career and it's just correct. But he rushed for 1,900 yards last year. 1,900. You know what I mean? Like at 30 years old, he was like, 1,900, easy, light work. Like that's insane. That's absolutely insane to have a running back at 30 years old rush for like 1,900 yards on a team with an MVP candidate quarterback. You know what I mean? Who went 41-4 as far as touchdown to interception ratio. It's insane what they did last year. And it sucks that, Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP because, no one cares about who the runner-up to the MVP was. No one ever talks about their season. And granted, you could argue like, oh, he didn't deserve it in 23 and they just made it right by giving it to Josh Allen in 24. But like, gosh, it sucks to have a year like that kind of like wiped away as far as Lamar Jackson goes. But if he does what he does, like if he is,
he'll win MVP if he has a repeat season.
Easily. And to do that while also having a running back who's just giving you, 2,000 yards on the ground, that is insane.
It 1,000% is insane. They also have one of the top 3 centers in the NFL as well, who's going to be getting a big contract.
Tyler Linderbaum?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, brother. The only interior lineman taken in that first round of that 2022 draft that like legitimately like worth the pick because you also had Kenyon Green Kenyon Green. He ended up traded because he couldn't really play. You had Cole Strange who when he plays he's fine and he just doesn't play all that often. He's missed like 29 games in his career, something like that, like something absurd like that. Where you're like, damn, he just hasn't played a ton of games. Yep. And then you also had Zion Johnson, who's fine. But Tyler Linderbaum, you're like, oh yeah, they took a center in the first round and that guy can play.
They literally traded Hollywood Brown. They traded back with the Cardinals gave them a first round pick for Hollywood Brown. They got Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum in that draft.
And then now that you mentioned Kyle Hamilton, it just reminds you, like, yeah, you got Kyle Hamilton, and then they added Malachi Starks to that defensive back end, and you're like, holy shit, what a team! They have a boat, man. They have a boat.
Or Zach Orr also really started to improve as a defensive coordinator later in the season they got.
Yeah, he ended up making the move to move Hamilton out from the slot and put him back at strong safety, and then they moved Marlon Humphreys into the slot, and that kind of fixed their defense. Because before that, they were having some like real issues guarding that slot, and you just feel better as a team when you have Kyle Hamilton a little further back, letting him read and react and play that way, as opposed to like lining up in the slot and covering guys. And I think the addition of Malachi Starks is really gonna obviously give them a lot more versatility with where they want to play their guys. It's a shame that Darius Washington, their young safety, ruptured his Achilles. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. So he's going to be out the year. And that's terrible because you like that 3 safety rotation there. And I know Darius Washington, he's not like a world beater. He's not like, oh yeah, you got to watch out, watch for 29. He's really going to, he's going to make you pay if you throw the ball in his vicinity. That's not really his game, but he is a really nice complementary piece. And in that rotation, I think he can really do a lot. So that's a shame that he won't be available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, but then like also too, I was saying Nate Wiggins as well. They have a really nice player as well for them.
Yes. Yeah. First round corner. It's so interesting that he could come out there and be like pretty good. Like I think he was at worst pretty good. And no one's talking about it because the team is just so layered like everywhere that they're like, oh yeah, Nate Wiggins, he worked out, and no one's even talking about him because everyone else also worked out.
It's like, cool. We have all these like first round DBs. They're all working for us. It's so great to have all that. It's like a spoiled luxury of like being a competent football organization.
And they were able to squeeze out incredible production out of Kyle Van Noy. Man, that is a guy I'm so excited about. Like, I just love seeing players like that just like shine. People thought he was overdrafted as a second round pick. Oh, he's not that good. He's not that good. Patriots, traded for him and absolutely unlocked him. And then he left and he went to Miami, and everyone's like, oh, see, he was kind of a Bill Merchant. He's not that good. He's not that good. And then he just ended up in Baltimore after a couple of years, and you're like, holy shit, he can play still.
Yeah.
Coaching, man. I tell you, coaching matters so much.
The other thing I will say about this schedule, too, is the fact that Christmas Day is going to be insane for the NFL. You have
poor NBA. They've been pushed out.
You know what the problem I think is with the NBA's Christmas Day to the NFL's? Obviously, the NFL, like we are kind of seeing it now. Kansas City is always going to be a marquee. But NBA's problem is they feel like they've always been putting the same marquee teams or players on Christmas Day. It's always,
they don't do a good enough job making sure the smaller market teams matter. I think the lottery, for all the talk that we've had this week about the NBA lottery and whether or not that would work in the NFL, the biggest issue with the lottery system is you end up with situations where top guys don't always end up on bad teams and are able to like turn the teams around. So like the Jazz are terrible, and you're kind of hoping like, all right, maybe they'll have a chance at a flag, and instead it's the Mavericks, who again they were they were a championship contender just a couple of years ago. So like
they were in the finals last year.
Yeah, it's just so I hate that so much, man. Like and as a result, you have these teams who are just bad forever because like superstars don't end up there because of the lottery system. So like the NBA just has to put the same teams into those primetime slots or to those prime, into those prime situations because they don't really have anyone else. Like who's tuning in? Like, oh yes, we're gonna have the Hornets and the Raptors on Christmas Day. It's like, who the fuck wants to see that? Like, no disrespect.
Whoa.
No disrespect to the Raptors, but like that matchup does not tell you like, oh man, we're gonna have something great here. You're like, okay.
No, I'm not saying that, but like I just feel like every year it's always, it's like say for example, it's always the Lakers, it's always like the Nuggets, it's the Celtics, it's the Warriors, like the Knicks. That's what I mean. I feel like
because no one wants to watch the Pelicans.
That's the thing. Like that, I'm not saying to put the bad teams on Christmas Day, but I just feel like you can't always recycle the same like 5 or 6 teams that are always there. Like even those like middle of the pack teams, like the Pacers, the Cavaliers, OKC's finally getting on there because they're getting their due. Even a team like the Orlando Magic, for example, the Clippers, the teams like that, even Sacramento. I'm saying get the teams like that on there because like this year with the NFL, if you look at it, Vikings Lions, banger of a game, especially that late into the season.
Yep.
Commanders Cowboys is going to be a very interesting game.
Fantastic. As well. It's going to be cinema.
And then the nightcap, which I love the tweet from the Chiefs on this, the loudest silent night in history when the Chiefs and the Broncos play the prime game, which it's Netflix Prime Video, which I love that they do that. So where it's, you can't switch the NBA. You got to leave the app and then go to ABC to watch Christmas Day, where they're just like, we're here, we're taking it over. And the only thing I will say is, I know the NFL draft lottery thing's been a discussion that's being pushed. If that were to ever happen and screwy shit happens, the tribalism will not be. It's not funny what would happen. It's not. You will mentally and physically and emotionally break fans and fan bases if you do that. Like imagine this year we were terrible. Like even last year too. The Patriots are terrible, 4-13, but they end up with the 7th overall pick.
Yeah.
And like the team, it's a random team like Carolina. I know Carolina didn't even have their pick. It's like Carolina's pick that would have been first was 6th, and then the Giants end up with the 4th overall pick, and they're the ones in the driver's seat for Caleb Williams. No, don't do it. I think ESPN was just doing it to drive it up, but honestly,
absolutely, it's good for conversation.
It's good conversation, and the one thing I do believe though is the ironic tweets where you see everyone where it's like, if this were to happen, January 6th would look like a picnic, and I'm like, I don't agree with it, but it's probably true. And then to finish off, which I also realized too, we haven't even talked about the draft at all yet, but I feel like there's nothing really to discuss. It's 3 weeks ago. I personally want to see how the guys play, and I'll say this right now: one of my favorite picks was the guy, I'm blanking on his name right now, but from LSU. Not Will Campbell. Well, obviously, look, Will Campbell, I'm hoping for the best for. Seems like a great dude.
Braden Swinson.
Yeah. Him and even too, I like I can't complain about the Henderson pick or the Williams pick, honestly. I know Williams, there's a lot of work to be done there, but I like the fact too that, hey, they're keeping going, but they managed to do a mix. It's not like last year where it's like, we need all offense, and then there's Marcellus Dial in the corner. Just like, basically, Marcellus Dial in that draft class is just like the SpongeBob, where it's like, get out, scram, and moochers, except for you can stay.
But, the draft. I liked the draft. I really loved Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. I think if he's in a competition with Garrett Bradbury, if it's a true competition, he wins that outright. I think he's a phenomenal player. I'm really excited about him. Braden Swinson in the 4th round, phenomenal player. Joshua Farmer, I didn't really think he would be a scheme fit because he's more of a two gapping defensive lineman. But by all means, with a player with that skill set, you will just find a role for him. So I'm excited about him. Some of the later picks, right? They took a long snapper. People were upset about that. They took Andy Borregales, the kicker,
who we had in our Vibes draft pick.
Yes, we did have him. We did have him in the Vibes draft pick. I don't really mind that. I think once you get to the back half of the of the 6th and 7th rounds, the picks really do stop kind of mattering, just because of the changes in college football. Yeah, he's gonna be phenomenal. I think because of the changes with college football and NIL over the last few years, you have players who are kind of fringe guys who, could have been 7th round picks in this past draft class, who just didn't even come out. They're like, well, fuck it. Like maybe I'll stay, I'll get a little more money and then improve my draft stock. So the guys you're getting in the later rounds of the draft, like really late into the draft, aren't really like guys that you need to be like, you need to be hot taking about, because for the most part, you're like, this guy's probably not going to play. He's going to be a developmental player. He's probably not going to play in the NFL. And that is fine. So I don't know why people got all bent out of shape about the long snapper, the kicker. It's fine. That's all fine. I think they've absolutely nailed it up until that ending. Kyle Williams is interesting. I'm not huge on him in the first place. I have problems with receivers who don't catch the football super cleanly, and he's one of them. So he will get open. I just want him to catch with his hands, but his hands are a little small, so he's always like body catching. And that's great when you're like wide open, not so much when you have a defender in your area, in your airspace, creating kind of traffic. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Travion Henderson, that guy can go. That is a home runner. He can go, and that is cool with me. Will Campbell, we kind of already expected that to be happening, so that is a-okay. I kind of wish they took a tight end in the draft. That's the only thing that I kind of wanted, but
they'll probably bring a couple rookies in for camp or for
they brought in CJ Dupree from Alabama, and you know how that goes. I'm rooting for him, but
my guy Robbie Oots ended up in Seattle, unfortunately, and they're going to use him as a fullback, which I'm like, God damn it. He's an Alabama guy.
That's what you wanted.
Alex Barth talked me into it, and I was fully sold.
So those are my thoughts on the draft class there. Last game of the year is Miami.
We missed New York too, but I don't think we really need to talk much about.
Did we? Oh, the second Jets game. Yeah, whatever. It's the Jets. We're gonna win that. All right, moving on. And then Miami.
I think it potentially could be a Saturday afternoon game. By the way.
Yes, I agree. That's gonna be so interesting because it's gonna be in Foxborough. Mm-hmm. And I just don't really respect the Bills as the Dolphins as a cold weather team. So, that'll be fun.
Tua's first Foxborough game in late December, I believe, because the last time they were here this late was the Teddy Bridgewater game, where the most famous thing I remember from that one was the Kyle Duggar pick six.
Yes, when he stiff-armed him into an injury.
Yes. Yeah, that's because apart from that, last year was in October. Then there was the Sunday Night Football game where the Mike McDaniel running meme was born.
Yep.
And then the Tua injury, 2021 was the Ramondre Stevenson fumble game. And then 2020 was Tua wasn't even playing yet. And then 2019, I don't like to talk about that game because that game really made me angry, where Fitzpatrick and won it. And Josh Rosen was celebrating on the sidelines, who's now at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. But, this is just, I'm also going to say this too. I think this is a game where Mike McDaniel's coaching for his job. I really
can see that. I can see that, sure.
I really can see this game too being either a potential loser leaves town, or if, like, say, for example, the Patriots are already out of it, but they could play a decent spoiler for Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to think of the Dolphins.
Me either, because what are they doing? But their high-end talent is so high-end that I think they're just going to brute force their way into a lot more wins than I think the team is capable of. And I kind of felt like that about them last year, where they're kind of just getting by on just being really, really talented on offense. And it's all right, we're just going to win games. We have no business winning because Tyreek Hill is still fast as fuck. Jalen Waddle still fast as fuck. Devon Achane still fast as fuck. These guys are going to get open. They're going to do what they do.
So they have their schedule is interesting the way it's laid out. So they have at the Colts, then they play. Here's a fun one. They play versus the Patriots, at the Bills, Thursday Night Football, I should add, versus the Jets on Monday Night Football for some godforsaken reason. And then at the Panthers, versus the Chargers, at the Browns, at the Falcons, versus the Ravens, versus the Bills, versus the Commanders in Spain. Good Lord.
What a stretch. That is a brutal little stretch there.
Yeah. You play 3 home games, even though one's neutral site, but you have the Ravens, the Bills, and the Commanders.
Good luck.
But then you return off your bye and you have Saints, Jets, Steelers, Bengals, Bucks, Patriots. That is not a fun December though. After the Steelers game.
Yeah. They can get on a little running, a little hot streak there, and then we'll see how they close it out. But
Dolphins and Steelers in a Week 15 Monday Night Football game.
What's the storyline there? Why is that a primetime game? Well, I guess the Steelers are. They're a decently popular team. You can kind of put them on primetime anywhere, and someone's going to watch them. And the Dolphins are the Dolphins, so
they are. I want to look up some of the primetime games. From weeks. So here's the thing too. I just saw from Adam Schefter because I was trying to look at the primetime games. From weeks 12 to 17, the Cowboys play. Get ready for this: the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Commanders. That's
tough. That is tough.
That is not fun. And then, so Sunday Night Football this year, we'll wrap this up just for fun. Bills, Ravens, that writes itself. That's going to be a good game.
Yep.
Vikings and Falcons week 2 is beyond interesting.
What is up with that? I think that could be fun because they've historically had some good games. And then you also get the rookie angles, right? Or the second year quarterback angles with JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix. So that could be fun.
Chiefs Giants, which
yuck.
Yeah.
Just yucky. I don't know. And watch that be like one of the best games of the year.
It's going to be a gross spread of like 11 points, and the Giants lose by 3. Like something like.
I think it'll be like, because it looks so bad on paper, it's probably going to be awesome.
And the Chiefs play with their food a lot. With Packers and Vikings week 4. Packers and Cowboys, excuse me.
Excellent.
Just it writes itself. They get together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Excellent.
Then week 5, I don't need to go into detail on.
Yep.
Week 6 though, Lions and Chiefs. That's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Goodness, they're cooking on SNF.
Week 7, 49ers and Falcons.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
Week 8, Packers and Steelers.
Fun. I mean, the Super Bowl rematch. Yeah, why not?
Week 9 is Commanders and Seahawks, which I think that's a
Commanders Seahawks. Where's that? Is that in
DC?
In DC? Dang, Dan Quinn is going to be the Commanders got a lot of that's there. I think that'll be fun. The Commanders got a few primetime games, don't they?
They do. Also, week 10, Chargers and Steelers. Another just
classic AFC matchup. Feels good about that.
Game I'm looking forward to, week 11, Eagles and Lions.
Gonna be phenomenal. I mean, goodness, the O-line play in that they're gonna write legends about the O-line play in that game. Holy cow. The stickers are gonna be fed.
Oh yes, we are. Week 12, Rams and Bucks. Same thing. Just that's gonna be fun.
Fun. Yep. You can't be mad at that.
Week 13, Commanders and Broncos. That's another fun one.
Yes, I agree. But again, it's the Commanders in prime time. But that is going to be like a really good coaching matchup. I'm really excited about that. And then we also get to see Scary Terry going up against that Denver defensive secondary. Oh, that'll be good.
Week 14, Texans and Chiefs. Like,
the
regular season game for them was kind of boring, but then the playoff game was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Week 15, Cowboys and Vikings.
Yep, like that as well. I think they have a low key. That's low key a really good matchup in terms of like personnel. So I'm excited about that because I want to see what the Dallas offense can do against that Minnesota defense. I think that Minnesota defense is incredible. Mm-hmm. It has the potential to be incredible anyway.
They also beefed up their offensive line as well.
Yep.
And then Bengals and Dolphins week 16, which I'm not sure why.
Sure.
That's a potential flex out candidate.
Yes, I was going to say that. Like, if the Dolphins, it could actually be either if the Dolphins or the Bengals are underperforming, and I think either have I think it's valid to think that either could underperform. I think that's one of those that you can just like go ahead and we're just going to flex that out.
The last one that's announced doesn't look good on paper, but at the time I think could have a lot on the line, and that's Bears at 49ers.
What is up with the Bears? Have a few primetime games as well. I think they're expecting them to be a lot better than I am. I think they're probably going to be fine, but like they have them in these primetime games like they're going to be like a superstar team. Like,
here's what it is. I think it's because it's the market of Chicago.
Yeah, I guess. And the Niners are interesting too because they could also blow.
Exactly. And then the only other one I see here, like the Bears have 2 games on Monday Night Football. They only have the Thursday Black Friday game, and then they only have the one Sunday Night Football game. So they're not in prime time a lot, but I do think they have some.
That's 4 games.
That's
a lot.
Oh yeah, you know what? 4 is a lot.
4 is a lot for a team that was picking, where they were picking the last few years. Like,
But I also look to the prime window game. I'm not going to go over it. I'm going to literally, I'm going to text you the photo right now of the games in prime. But there's not a game on the prime slate that I look at as that's terrible right now. It's a lot of divisional games, which I think they're fine with, but they're learning their lesson from we're not just going to throw bad games on here anymore. Yep. No more Titans, Jaguars, RIP.
Yeah, it's a shame that that they still have Al Michaels doing the Thursday night games. I think that's the biggest issue with Thursday Night Football at this point because that guy is checked out.
He is. There is one though. The week after we're on there, it's Texans and Bills week 12 for Thursday Night Football. That's a bit of a spicy
That'll be
meatball.
fun. That'll be fun.
There's a lot of games on here that scream. There's a lot of games on here that scream. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Agree. I think we're in for some good football. At least we're not doing the same thing they did that year with when they just kept putting the Denver Broncos in primetime.
Oh my!
And they were awful the Russell Wilson year. I was like, holy cow, we just have to keep watching them play football.
I watched the entirety Colts game. I watched that entire Colts game.
God.
The last time I was in Massachusetts, that was the one that I actually watched the entire game. And after it was done, I was like, why did I watch that?
It's like when you eat a whole bag of Doritos and you're like, that shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have done that.
The bag's empty. What the fuck? Oh, but anyway, guys, when you're having fun, time flies, and that always happens when McGarvin and I chat, no matter if it's texting, interacting on social media, or face-to-face like this now. But you know what? We went over the entire schedule, and that's why I asked you about the draft, because I was just like, I meant to talk about the draft, and we said shit about the draft.
Not a thing, but hey, we're here.
We're here. We're rocking and rolling. But guys, before you know it, real football we played. We've got 4 months till then, but just a quick podcasting note. We're going to be taking a little bit of trip up the north side of the border soon because CFL's coming back, and I got some stuff planned. Look to my socials for more. But anyway, guys, actually, you know what? Any last words?
Go Pats.
I love it. 359 in the books, guys. We'll see you for 360 next week. Have a great night.